Hi, everybody. This is week 2 of the Audi news and events roundup from Audi Club. So last week we went to APR and we did some cool stuff. This week we've got some more news for you and another guest and place to go. So Bill, why don't we start with some news that broke this morning of a hybrid coming to the U.S.
Yes. We are getting the A7 TFSI e-plug-in hybrid in the US. It looks like it's going to come out in the fall. It's a 2-liter turbo with an electric motor. It generates up to 362 horsepower, 369 pound-foot of torque, and you can drive it in electric mode. According to Green Car Report, you can go upwards. It's a guessing of about 27 miles on pure electric, which is pretty cool that you can flip out back and forth between this. It's going to be the third plug-in model for Audi after the Q5 and the A8 flagship.
That's an interesting thing, right? A7, obviously a sportier model. It's worth noting in the Q5 hybrid already in this market, you've already got, if you've got short distances to go, you can drive pure electric, but if you're using them both in tandem, the Q5 hybrid is actually faster in a line than the SQ5. So expect probably closer to SQ7 levels of power out of this when you're just driving around, which is pretty rad.
It's going to be available in 2 levels, if you want to say, the Premium Plus and the Prestige. Premium, it looks like it's going to start about $69,200 all the way up to $80,250 for the Prestige model. I don't know anything about the S7 as of this point, but that it's going to be on sale this fall. So keep an eye out for that.
With that in mind, why don't we look at going to see if we can go live to VIR. Mike from NGP is joining us today. Hi, Mike. Now we're at VIR, so we may be experiencing some latency issues this morning. They are in the middle of nowhere in Virginia, so hopefully this will work. Here we go. Are we hooked up?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Mike, yeah.
Hey Mike, thank you very much.
We were hoping, for those who don't know, NGP is racing in the NASA. Is it World Challenge? What's the series you got? Oh, okay. They'll be racing 2 RS3 LMSs at VIR this weekend when they are, I think it's the first time both of these cars will take to the track. Tristan Herbert, who's the head of Audi Sport Customer Racing in the USA, will be running the one car. That's the NGP car, the one with the blue and white stripes. So pretty excited about that. I think that's the first time Tristan actually head of customer racing. He doesn't typically race Audi product. He is a racer, though, at least on the side. And so this will be exciting to see him taking the track, particularly a hard track like VIR, a really technical track. It should be a great outing for those guys. So we're hoping if we can get our audio together with Mike, we can get a walk around of the cars in the paddock, the NGP area, the paddock this morning.
I can't hear you guys. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thumbs up if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. Hey guys, good afternoon. Coming to you live from a very hot VIR. Weekend's gone so good so far. I should say week rather. Both cars are doing well in practice and test so far. We've been pretty good on the speed chart for a first time out. We've done a pretty good job of staying on top of kind of learning as we go and making sure that we've got everything covered. Drivers being comfortable, car set up correctly, and so forth. So it's been a bit of a learning curve for sure. Definitely something outside of our comfort zone, but exciting. Obviously, everybody wants to go racing, right? We've got Tristan Herbert driving our house car. We'll call it the 44 that's got our livery on it. Tristan, for those of you that don't know, at this point this is an Audi Club event. I don't know how you don't know who he is, but he is in charge of the customer racing.
I think he's having some latency issues from VIR, Bill.
Yeah, because they're out in the middle of nowhere.
To our live audience, pardon us, we're working through this. The feed from VIR is tough. Yeah, so the car you'll see in the front is a customer of theirs, and then behind that is the NGP car. In any case, yeah, they've had a busy morning trying to get prepped for the race. I'm going to go quiet so we can get some footage of the cars to you all, and then we'll interject. Hopefully, we'll get some audio back. Bill, do you know the other driver's name? I know his first name is Vinny. I'm blanking on his last name. He owns the car in front, the green and red car, and then this new German performance car, as you can see, has Tristan Herbert's name on the side.
Vinny Lima.
Vinny Lima, that's it. Vinny's a customer out of the Washington area who NGP manages his car as well as their own cars. I believe they have both the RS3 there, and then they have a Golf TCR. I don't think the Golf is competing this weekend.
No, I just think the two RS3s are.
So pardon everybody today for the technical difficulties we're trying from VIR, but unfortunately we're just unable to get audio. All right, cool. Well, why don't we move on to some of the next probably big story this week is that Audi revealed a concept car. This is the Q4 e-tron. It was a sportback version of the Q4. Now, and for those who may remember, the Q4 e-tron that was shown before is the first Audi product on Volkswagen Group's MEB modular electric architecture. So specifically built as a purely electric platform, much like the J1 that the Porsche Taycan and the e-tron GT are on, but obviously at a different price point. This is going to underpin everything from Volkswagens to Seats to Skodas to whatever. And this is the second SUV or crossover that will be an Audi on it. We had the e-tron that was the Q4 e-tron that was more of a long roof, if you will, a typical crossover profile, and then this is a sportback version, just like the e-tron sportback and the some of the other spy photos we've seen this week, which we'll get to in a little bit. But that is big news. This is, again, a concept version. So they do expect an actual Q4 in market in about a year, but they may change a little bit for production. Some neat things you're seeing here, though. They've changed the grille design to sort of make use of the fact that it doesn't have to be functional, and it can be basically color matched, and then they have black surrounding it. And then, of course, in the rear, you have this very fastback roofline. And what's cool about in the back, the spoiler kind of goes across the rear glass. For those Audi nerds like myself who remember the 100 C3 Avance that had the kind of sloped glass in the back and the spoiler going across it, it's very much that same treatment. So kind of a cool nod to the past. That was actually the first 100 Duo hybrid, was based on that platform. So the fact that they went to it here is a bit of a nod to their electric past. So pretty cool new thing from Audi.
Did you mention the range on that?
Bill, I did not. Do you know it offhand?
It's 310 miles approximately.
So pretty good. I mean,
wow.
e-tron is 200 miles. And so 300 miles is more like what we're seeing out of Tesla, who's kind of the leader in the space at the moment as far as energy density from their batteries. So it's interesting to see what Volkswagen is saying they can get now out of this MEB platform. And, that should be, it'll make them competitive. Now, I'm going to imagine price point on Q4, based on the fact that it's Q4, from price point perspective, it's going to be priced around A4 money, right? So this is smaller on the outside than a Q3, but as big as a Q5 inside. I would expect performance is probably not, ludicrous mode fast. It's probably more of a normal vehicle.
This is, I mean, for, if we're thinking about that price point and the range, this is, it's going to be a very good competitor.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
So let's see here. Next up, why don't we go to Rene Rast is joining the second seat in Formula E.
Yes.
He'll be taking over the old Daniel Opt car for the next and final round, I believe, this season.
Yes, there's going to be 6 races in. They're all going to be in Berlin between August 5th and August 13th. He went on his test rounds last weekend. He still is racing in DTM right now, but he loved, obviously, he loved the open air experience as opposed to being into his DTM RS5. He's looking forward to it. Obviously, this is his first experience with electric, the Formula E, but he is obviously a accomplished race car driver. So we're looking forward to seeing him race in Berlin in 6 races. Is going to be their season finale.
So we wish them a lot of luck. It's good to see some real racing going back on, and of course, IMSA had their first race
this past weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next up on the docket, why don't we move to some of the spy photos that we've gotten? We've gotten 2 sets of spy photos this week, and for people who are into crossovers, it's some interesting news. First is Q5 Sportback. So we've seen the Sportback already, the e-trons, and now the Q4. Now that the Q5 has gone through its facelift, which we reported on last week, it's not surprising that a Sportback version is due of the Q5, and it's been spied testing out and about in Germany. You can see more coupe-like roofline. I've seen some interesting comments on the e-tron Sportback on our Facebook groups of people saying, well, we'll see if they sell because whatever, a coupe-like SUV, I don't know. But at the end of the day, it definitely seems to be a growing segment. Sales are definitely happening here. So it may not be the traditional buyer who's buying this, but I can't help but wonder, this thing in an SQ5 or even an RSQ5 that's been rumored. We've seen that rumored running around. Could be pretty interesting. So that was interesting to see. And then speaking of SQ5, with the new Q5 rounds, the SQ5 has been spied out testing with no camouflage on it whatsoever. So pretty neat that we're seeing it. You can see the nose there is a little bit different than what we'd seen on the Q5 press photos that have been shown so far of that German market diesel version that have been seen with the initial launch. This is the definitely an SQ5 version. Now for us, that means the 2.9 liter turbo will carry over. This is a mid-life cycle freshening, so you're not going to see any new engines, I would expect, but you do see all the substantive upgrades that the Q5 gets. The SQ5 gets it too. And Bill, I have to say, I don't know if this is production, but you got to look at that rear valance, and holy cow, the thing's got tailpipes, Bill.
It's got real exhaust.
Yeah. So for the people who like real exhaust, damn, the JD Power studies full speed ahead. This is really great. I mean, the joke on JD Powers, of course, is that like a lot of consumers didn't like the carbon buildup that, the unsightly black carbon buildup that happens on all exhaust pipes. And so I think that kind of caused them to maybe move away from the tailpipe of the last one, but they received such an uproar that it seems like maybe that's, while the aftermarket answered and provided some tailpipes, even Audi Accessories is going to offer a tailpipe upgrade, from what I understand, for the current SQ5. The facelift version certainly appears that it will have it. So
yeah, let me tell you, that was the most commented. That was the most comment that we had when we showed the story.
Was it?
Yeah, people were mentioning that left and right.
That's pretty funny.
Yes.
Okay, so in other news, Bill, I know we already showed this last week. It was breaking when we went online last week, but I've been able to get my hands on some more photos of the e-tron S and the e-tron S Sportback. So some really great looking studio stuff, I gotta say. I'm calling this one, because the e-tron is what would you call it? e-tron, the SUV, with the Sportback being the Sportback. It's kind of hard to know which is what the version I own is, which is the regular e-tron. So I'm gonna start calling it the e-tron long roof. Because they don't call it Avant for whatever reason. Like an A7 Sportback is an A7 Sportback, and an e-tron Sportback is the same roof on an SUV. So you'd think like the e-tron with a long roof would be the Avant, but they're not calling it that. So I'm confused, but there's a method to their madness, I'm sure. Part of it is probably because wagons for a long time weren't cool, so maybe that was it. But regardless, the long roof to me in Navarra, what a great tasteful way to launch this car. And then you can see, let's see here, we'll jump to some of these other photos. Here's the Sportback from the rear. Sportback from the front, and definitely more sporting look. Interesting to see more of this use on body style. And those, we talked last year, or last week rather, when we first saw this black optics on Navara again. But one of the things we talked about was the fact that it looks beefier than what we've seen so far of e-tron and e-tron Sportback. And I couldn't quite put my hands on it. Even with our Project e-tron, if you compare it, we've got the 22-inch wheels and the car's been lowered. So theoretically, it should look just like these cars, right? Other than not having the S-line bumper. But let's go through first the interior, since we've got the photos staged in a different way. Really nice detail work there. The embossed S on the shifter. See that new start-stop button, the black with the red versus silver. Might be a new OEM plus thing for more than just e-tron owners. That shifter is unique to e-tron, so it'll just be the start-stop button. But that's what I was looking to show. Is it's definitely, it looks so much beefier because of those quarter panels. So on the e-tron, you actually have a separate segment plastic piece, I assume plastic, that covers those arches. Well, it looks like this might be plug and play. You'll probably need the S-line front bumper the S uses, but those, I don't know if those are actual functional vents or not. I suspect they're not, but still looks great. And they're clearly wider than the regular e-tron, so that, you tuck those 22s up underneath there. Again, probably not, just based on what I've seen of our own e-tron with the 22s, it's going to knock your range down a little bit, but it looks amazing. I've got to say, there's part of me, and I'd have to do the S-line front bumper, but there's part of me thinking, boy, wouldn't this be a cool OEM plus upgrade for our current Project e-tron? So again,
it's a beautiful. I know I'm being biased, but it's a beautiful, like you said, beefy SUV.
Look, and going back to the interior here, you've got sports seats. The diamond, it's kind of a new take on the diamond pattern that you see in the S cars already. So kind of taking a different direction, but definitely sportier than the regular e-tron. So just some really, it's nice looking package. I did have a chance to speak to an Audi PR representative this week about the e-tron S. He said, for now, they're still making a decision. So he may be being a little bit coy with me on that. I have to imagine this car will eventually come to the United States. I don't know why it would not. But they just have to make sure it fits in the range, and they probably don't want to sell it, get people's hopes up if it's not fully approved yet. If we do see it, he suggested we will see it next year. So I am planning on looking for that next year, because I'd really like to see one, particularly in that setup with the blue.
With the blue.
The blue long roof. Very good looking car.
It is very good. Was there any information on range on this vehicle, or?
Since we're not live now, I'm going to go to the website. Check. No, that's fine. Because I can cut this clip, and from where you asked me the question to my immediately sounding like I have the answer.
Like that. 223 miles.
So 223 miles, let's say, or kilometers?
With one battery charge, the Audi e-tron S and Sportback achieve ranges up to 223.7 miles.
Okay. So from what it looks like, you've got, we can do the math on that.
Actually, the Sportback gets 226.8. And the SUV gets 223.7.
They have been doing some upgrades to the operating, to basically the software, and I don't think there's too much of a hardware update yet, but they have been working on upgrades to these to try to bolster the range of the e-trons. So my early one got about 200, but obviously we're seeing better. And if you're running 3 motors, there's more weight in this car. So the fact that they're able to get 226 out of a heavier version of it with the third motor and the larger 22-inch wheels, they're probably more narrow than the SQ7 wheels we have on our Project e-tron in the magazine. But regardless, it's going to be more rolling resistance. and would hurt range. So with the 22s we're running on the Project e-tron, we're looking at like about 185 miles of range. If this is able to do 226 with the same configuration and a third motor, that's pretty impressive. So 0 to 60 of what, 4.5 seconds is pretty brisk. So what though I think is the real advantage to this new e-tron is, you know, acceleration is cool and all, but handling, the e-tron has already done better than the Teslas in some of the comparison tests we've seen out of the UK, where they're taking them to tracks and they're running them around you know, closed courses and seeing how they handle. These are all heavy cars because of the battery. There's really no way around that. But one of the interesting things about the e-tron S is it's the first electric to market to use that third motor. And so you're able to over torque the outer rear wheel, much like the sports differential does in, say, the S4 or S5 and many of the other Audis in the range. So by doing that, you can induce oversteer. So you're, you know, if you look up videos online, if you look at the Audi Club YouTube channel, follow it, there's a plug. But if you look on there, there's a video of the car, the original e-tron S Sportback test mule, and then Stig Blomqvist doing basically drifting the longer version that also has some mule camouflage on it. But it drifts, man. Like it's legitimately very drivable and handles very well. This will only be much better than the regular e-tron. The cars that were tested against those Teslas were basic e-trons with standard suspension, not lower contact patch because thinner, low rolling resistance tires. This car will be much better optimized. And, you know, Tesla's working on their own third motor setup called Plaid, I believe is what they're calling it. But for now, the e-tron S is the first car to market with it. We'll see if it makes it to the US market ahead of Tesla, or see if Porsche goes ahead, and I'm sure they'll probably do some evolution on Taycan perhaps, and maybe we'll see something similar from that. But for now, e-tron S is the only car in the market, at least the world market, that has it. I'm really excited to, hopefully it'll end up here in the US.
Me too, just like that particular shot right there.
Yeah.
Sells me on the vehicle, so.
Yeah, I'm a big, this one right here. The profile on that thing is just really handsome. So moving along, shall we move to our find of the day? You found a pretty cool one this week.
Yes, I did.
Why don't you tell me a little bit more about this one?
So we have on Facebook, we have the Audi Club North America Classifieds page. And I scroll through it every once in a while. I am in the process of looking for a new, to me, Audi, ran across this. So what you see here is this 2014 Audi R-Road Prestige model. It's originally Phantom Black, but Omar is the owner. He had wrapped it in 3M Dragonfire Red, which is fantastic. Honestly say that it's actually black. So what you see here,
which by the way, if you're going to wrap a car, you know, you're going to have door jambs and engine bays to contend with. Black is a great place to start because it doesn't take away from the exterior. I see he's wrapped his roof box too. It's an interesting, you know, if you like red, that is a really eye-catching car.
It's got AccuAir on it. It's got the 3P air management, a 2.5 gallon stainless steel tank, all of it and more, all of it hidden in a spare tire well. So the execution on this car is fantastic.
Really very nice build. And you said this got a lot of attention online, I'd imagine?
It is one of our biggest story this week. It's a beaut.
Do we know?
Really enjoyed this car. It is on sale. He's selling it for $28,500. And he just needs a bigger vehicle because his family's growing. So, you know, sometimes you have to give up your toys and
28.5, a little high for a previous generation all-road, but you'd never, even if you picked one up at market price, like many modded cars, you'd never be able to buy it for this number. So, build it for this number. So being able to buy it, of course, you're going to pay a premium if this is to the right owner, to the person who's looking for that sort of thing. They want a bagged all-road. They know what they want. They want something that's going to get a ton of attention. This will do it. Seems like a really cool car.
I enjoy it.
If we can move to our last story that we have before moving to events today, this is worth noting. Electrify America has now completed their first of 2 cross-country routes where you will be able to charge high speed. If you're an e-tron owner, you can make that route. Now you're soon to be e-tron GT or Taycan owner. and eventually maybe something like the A7 TFSI, you won't need to stop because you'll have the engine of your plug-in hybrid. But regardless, high-speed charging, and you can make that cross-country run. They have, it looks like the more northerly routes complete. I know I'm seeing a lot more of them here in the States. We're looking at taking a road trip this weekend for a week away in New York State, where COVID numbers are lower, and we've been looking for e-tron or Electrify America stops so we can charge our e-tron along the way, and always nice, always much faster. So New York I know is well set up, but now I can go cross country too. So good to know.
Let's do a cross country trip.
Yeah, let's do it. Well, maybe we'll wait until after COVID. What do you say?
Right. Let's do that.
Right.
But I'm glad to have they're set up that you can do these cross country trips.
Yeah. I mean, so that's the whole thing we've experienced since the first time when we got our e-tron, the Project e-tron that we run in the magazine, and we picked that up last year, about a month from now, it was September, and then we very quickly took it to Vermont for Oktoberfest, and it was a learning experience because there wasn't a whole lot of infrastructure yet. Now there's just in one short year, there's a lot more infrastructure opened up around the area where it makes the use of the car that much easier. I know, for instance, with us, and not just Electrify America, we'll be making use of, like, just across the New York border, there's a 50 kilowatt charger at the rest stop as Welcome Center as you enter New York. You're just seeing it a lot more in a lot of places, and it makes, you know, for all the people who are very concerned about range, rightfully so in some cases. I don't have a problem with 200 miles in our ownership of the vehicle, but this definitely makes it easier. So.
What that Vermont trip was it was a 600-mile round trip or something around that?
Yeah, I don't recall the number. I think it was about 600 or 800.
800.
But
you know what? It was 800 miles.
We made use of Electrify Americas all across through Pennsylvania and part of New York, and then the challenge was when we went like in-state Connecticut and up into Vermont. You get a little further from. At that time, there were only 50 kilowatt chargers, so we had to plan around those. But even those weren't too bad. So. With all of that covered, I believe that's all the news for this week. Why don't we touch a little bit on events that we can either expect, or maybe I've heard a few are canceling as well, just due to the whole COVID thing.
Right.
So,
Well, the big news is Quattro de Mayo, which is held by our Audi Club Georgia chapter. They have canceled. Originally, obviously, going by the name, it was supposed to happen in May. They pushed it back to August. But the other day, they came to the realization that it's probably prudent of them to cancel the event.
But for those who haven't attended, Quattro de Mayo it sells out in hours, if not days. Right? Minutes maybe. But it's a very, very sought after event that Audi Club Georgia is amazing at putting on, and it's Georgia and its neighboring South Carolina are blessed with a lot of really amazing roads. Tail the Dragon, one of the more legendary, and I think that's typically part of that event as well in some way. And so it's an annual tradition, obviously in May typically, and so I think they sold out their secondary date as quickly as they sold out the first, so they were able to move most of the audience over. So it's I think a real hit for people who are looking at going, but pragmatically for the people who are planning it. It's just so many people. And I know that they've had some other events since then where it's a real challenge to like get people to wear masks and to socially distance. And, while that all seems really great mathematically in your head, when you haven't seen your friends in a long time, I'm guilty of the same thing. You get out in the parking lot or you get near them and, you just kind of want life to go back to normal. So it's completely understandable that what a bear running such a large event would be, and fully understand probably the smart thing to do. But the enthusiast in me, the brain in me says that's the smart thing to do. The enthusiast in me is, a little disappointed because of what COVID has done to our urbans this year. So
I mean, they get over 70 cars for Quattro de Mayo,
and that's just cars, not gas.
That's just cars, exactly. Yeah. So gas, obviously, you could almost say they probably almost triple that number. In gas. So,
and to be clear, they cut it off because at that point it gets unmanageable, right? Because they've got these trains of cars going out, different levels of driving each day. They
have a lead and a follow car, so they're pretty much restricted to how many people are going to be lead and follow with that. But it's a very great run event. It's very fun, obviously, if you want to drive those roads that you mentioned earlier. They have dinners, cookouts. Good news is they've already rescheduled for next year.
Oh, great.
Yes, so it's going to be April 29th through May 2nd in Asheville, North Carolina. So keep an eye out on quattrodemaro.com or AudiClubNA.org website, Audi Club Georgia's website, to see when they open up the invitations exactly.
Fingers crossed there's a vaccine by then, right?
Yes, and hopefully good luck to them.
Yeah.
It is, if you haven't attended, like George said, it is a great event, so try to get out there.
Well, speaking of Tail of the Dragon, do we have one event that hasn't been canceled yet?
No, it hasn't. It's a smaller group, of course, going out. So our Audi Club Carolinas, they're actually going out this weekend on the Tail of the Dragon run. We have, they're going to follow all the COVID protocols about social distancing, their local region, what their protocols on gatherings, and they all fall within range of that. So they decided that they're going to run the tail this Saturday, and good luck to them. I mean, it looks like it's going to be a good event, and hopefully I'm going to see photos out of it soon. So
we have Carolina's going to Tail the Dragon. I know when is the Formula E race? Do you recall? I think we touched on that earlier, but it's probably worth stating.
Formula E races were August 5th through the 13th.
Okay, so we got a little time on that. Any other events going on in the near future?
In the near futures are Potomac Chesapeake chapter, which obviously it's around Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, DC. That whole group. They run their annual. They run an event called Shakes and Breaks, which is they've been running it for years. If you were at National last year, we were on a kind of abbreviated Shakes and Breaks on one of their runs. It's fun. Kind of like Tail of the Dragon, but you're not on these awesome roads. You're on really good roads, though. So that's
not everybody. Not everybody can be Tail of the Dragon, but these are the roads like up probably northwest of Washington. So you're in Maryland, up around. Looking at the route last year, I think they were up near Camp David and kind of the mountains there, Maryland, and then they cut down towards like Virginia and West Virginia, and just a really cool. And I think the shakes part of that is, do they stop for milkshakes or something at the end? Or
there's this ice cream shop that they stop by, which is hence Shakes and Breaks. They are also, it's a well-planned event that they run for their members over the Potomac Chesapeake Bay area. So our last event, which is going to be happening next week also, is our Northwest chapter is doing their Snake River Rally and dinner. That's going to be on the 17th. This is also another event that they've been running annually. I have to hand it to our chapters. They're doing a great job of making sure that they're going to protect their participants and the attendees and everybody else is going to run across also. They're following the protocols. They're following their local health department guidelines. So we are confident that everybody's going to have a great time. I mean, we know that everybody's going to have a great time on that.
Yes. But
be rest assured that they are working hard to make sure that these events are safe for everyone.
Yeah, and I would say too, this is probably a good time to have a public service announcement about if you're going to one of these Audi Club events, or frankly any event, guys. I know the whole mask thing gets a little charged, especially if you bring politics and everything like that into it. But the reality is, organizations like Audi Club are just trying to make sure that, one, most importantly, everybody is as safe as we can possibly plan for and deal with. So we're trying to make sure that you're safe of COVID while getting out as best you can. And two, we're trying to make sure that, that none of these event planners have any difficulties if, somebody comes along and they're not adhering to what's being asked. So I know, for instance, we talked about the Georgia event earlier in the show. They had masks on hand. Please bring a mask. If there are masks on hand, please use them. I know, again, just being out in some of the events I've been, even just running to stores or seeing people at Starbucks or whatever, if people aren't wearing masks, sometimes you feel a little silly wearing your own and everything else. And certainly coffee breath in the back of a mask is no fun. But at the end of the day, this is about, while it may be, no big deal, just another cold to some people, particularly young people, it's a big deal and very serious for some, and especially the older people amongst us, but even some of the younger, from what we've been seeing in the news. So by all means, please adhere to it. If event planners are asking you to do it, don't make life difficult for them. They're there to put on a great event for you. So maybe, make it a little easier for them by adhering to it. And that just makes everything go a little bit smoother. So.
Great points, George. Thank you very much for bringing those up.
Yeah. Well, and we thank all the people putting on events. That's this is not an easy time to do it, but they're all there for everybody else to make sure the rest of us are entertained and having a good time. Exactly, because the planning an event in the first place is a lot of work, and then adding make sure that everybody's protected. It's just a lot of work that goes into even more work with this. So just please follow their lines, and everybody will have a great time. Yeah, that's the ultimate goal: is everybody have a great time and everybody be safe. Hey, while we were chatting, I noticed in the comments on the live feed, Cy Gray, famous badass photographer from the UK, shoots a lot of feature cars. He's shot for Quattro magazine, shoots for PBW and a bunch of other people, has a rotating platform studio in the basement of his house. That guy is nuts in a good way. He would like to come along and join because they're not doing anything in England. Well, Cy, I don't think you're able to travel to the United States right now because we are a train wreck as far as our COVID numbers. So I know I can't come to you. If you can come here, great, but you might not be able to get back. So I would caution again, as much as I'd love to see you and hang out with you, man, we will definitely have to do that when this whole COVID thing is over, because it is much due, and would love to get some more Cy Gray work into the magazine. I think the last one he shot for us was the Howden Haynes Sport Quattro feature that we did a couple, maybe a year or so ago now. But definitely miss Cy Gray and all the other people we would see at events. And so looking forward to things going back to normal. Anything else, Bill, we want to cover before signing off? Do you want to preview our Find of the Day episode for tomorrow? I suppose we should. Who are we having on, Bill? Let's see. A couple of weeks ago, we had Volkswagen America Group joining us. So we decided, hey, it just makes sense to have Audi of America join us. So we have Jacob Brown from the PR department. The new PR guy, newish. I guess he's not so new anymore, but he is, as a nerd, I love him because he's nerdy. And he's got an 84 4000, which makes, I think, an immediate, you're super cool if you have one of those. Yeah, okay, George. I'm a little biased. Okay, so next up? Next up is Rico Abrazon. He is Rico. Sorry, no, go ahead. Oh no, we've known Rico for years. He came over from the Volkswagen side. Has been doing a great job in the Northeast. Has a young son, the baby Wombat. He's about a year old at this point, I think. But he's going to be joining us also. So Rico is currently regional Audi after sales guy. So accessories and Audi collection placement, et cetera. And in the Northeast, he lives in Connecticut, and he's an importer of, if you know, like the Volkswagen LTs, like Audi Sport, the vintage Audi Sport LT that we see at like Lime Rock and PIR and whenever, sometimes they used to have it at Daytona. But he didn't bring that one in. That one was Jamie Orr. But Rico goes and buys like big 4x4, like crew cab versions and restores them. He's a huge enthusiast, and I'm sure he'll find some really wackadoodle stuff to add to the competition. Yep. So who's our final? Oh, gosh. Do we have a final? I can't remember its name. I think we tried to invite him several times, and then we just kind of forgot. Was it Ian? Ian Avila. Ian Avila. We finally got him on. We'll see. But I'm really excited about Ian Avila. Again, a long time. We make fun sometimes because he's been hard to get, or he's been playing hard to get with us. But that's just why we love him more. And he's actually featured, if you get your new magazine this week or next, which is when they're due. We've got a layout in the back of all of Ian's cars, the Audi autobiography feature that we do, the spread of all the cars he's ever owned, all the Audis, rather, he's ever owned. And are you going to hold that up there? So yeah, it's hard to, you got to go backwards and lining it up with the camera. But Ian's had some cool stuff over the years. So it'll be, he's also, I think, currently an RS6 Avant owner, beyond whatever his company car is. And then he's got a couple other cool things. So looking forward to having Ian on the show too.
It's going to be fun.
So that will be
at 7 p.m.
The usual time, right? Friday at 7 p.m. And going back to, we kind of took the week off last week, and then we hacked it up doing our preview of this show the week before. So it's about time we get back into the practice. I got to get my stuff together. I got to find my cars, because I expect a game from all three of these guys this week.
Come on, George.
Yeah.
It's not like you have nothing else to do, right?
maybe I'll bring a house again, and y'all can vote it down just like you did last time.
Oh, we're going to vote it down. Trust us.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Yeah, that's a wrap, dude. This is our third episode of the Audi News Roundup. We'll try and get it on YouTube here shortly, but thanks to everyone who joined us, and take care, be healthy, be safe.
Have a great weekend.